If you are a fearful avoidant or loved one, you know that fearful avoidants struggle deeply to trust. And it's not just trusting you right here and now, trusting that you won't cheat or lie. It's trusting the future. It's trusting that things won't change in 5 years, 10 years. And it's the fearful avoidance constantly scanning, waiting for the other shoe to drop, which honestly, if you are a fearful avoidant, is quite exhausting. In today's video, I'm going to help you finally make peace with this. These are 5 things a fearful avoidant needs in order to trust again and really relearn what trust should look like in a healthy way so that you can give these ingredients to your fearful avoidant loved one, or you can honor these and the fact that you will need these things as a healing fearful avoidant so that your nervous system can finally relax into love, into relationships, and into everyday life. So if you're not already familiar, the fearful avoidant, aka disorganized attachment style, is the attachment style that essentially in love and relationships really struggles to trust. And they also tend to swing from their anxious side to their avoidant side and can experience feelings of like really fearing abandonment and wanting more closeness and having that like emotional hunger for more closeness and intimacy in their life. But then when somebody actually gets really close, they can actually experience the exact opposite side, which is the fear of closeness. And they can push somebody away and really struggle to actually be vulnerable and open up and allow that connection to land. In this video, we're going to cover why that happens, where it comes from, really the context for why fearful avoidants can struggle with trust so much, and then 5 key ingredients that you absolutely need to know in order to build that trust in the relationship. First and foremost, one of the biggest needs that a fearful avoidant has in order to actually maintain a successful relationship and move the needle beyond the power struggle stage of every relationship is trust. And when that trust is not there, fearful avoidants instead will tend to sabotage the relationship. And they don't sabotage like from a place of, their conscious mind where they're actively trying to initiate that sabotage. They sabotage from a place of self-protection. They push somebody away because when they don't trust, they feel unsafe. And they try to create distance from that person and minimize their attachment needs to that person as a means of feeling safer and more comfortable again. If somebody's the loved one or is trying to connect to a fearful avoidant, there's some really important qualities in relationship to trust that have to be a foundation in that relationship in order for it to really work and to last. First and foremost, fearful avoidants, the reason they struggle with trust is not necessarily always so overt, okay? In some of the most obvious cases, you'll see things like maybe a fearful avoidant has a parent who struggles with alcoholism or addiction. And let's just use the example of alcoholism. Let's say that parent grows up with a child, and one day that parent is in a good mood because they're drinking and they're in a good mood. They're like kind of happy-go-lucky and they're a little tipsy and they're, in that sort of space. And so that one day the fearful avoidant's like, oh, this is nice. I can connect to this person. They're in a good mood. But let's say the next day they're drinking and they're really in a bad mood. They're an angry drunk and they're scary and they're confusing to that child. It's this big shift. Like, are they going to be in a good mood? Or are they going to be in a bad mood? And then let's say the parent's sobering up and they're detoxing. So they're in a horrible mood. And then let's say the parent's sobering up and they've been sober a few days and now they're actually in a better mood and they're kind of feeling guilty for using well around the child. And so now they're kinder and a little softer, but then they go back to drinking and these cycles continue. Essentially what the fearful avoidant is getting is this idea of never knowing how to attach. There's no consistency in building or forming an attachment strategy to the parent or caregiver. This can exist for a multitude of reasons, right? This can also be because there's a lot of fighting and chaos in the home. So because of that, it could be like, are the parents going to be in a good mood today? A bad mood? Is one parent going to be in a good mood? The other parent in a bad mood? And just this constant feeling of walking on eggshells. These trust wounds do not have to be these huge broken. It doesn't have to be that like one parent has a separate like hidden family somewhere else. Of course, that can happen and that can cause a fearful avoidant attachment style to develop as well. But it's really this idea that there's like so much inconsistency and confusion and chaos, usually kind of like sprinkled in there with some drama, fighting, emotionality, like strong emotional charges, to the degree that the child just never knows what to expect and what they're going to get. And this is largely what causes the fearful avoidant attachment style. Sometimes the FA is referred to as the disorganized attachment style because they have a disorganized way of forming an attachment bond. Like some days love is a nice thing, some days love is a really scary thing. So they have like these disorganized or competing ideas about the same thing. It's like their concept and idea of love and relationships and closeness is both lovely and wonderful and beautiful and intimate and close and terrifying. And so it's like so confusing for the fearful avoidant themselves. The first thing you have have to know is why that happens. And it's not always these huge chaotic things. It can just be consistent low-level chaos in the home all the time that creates like a confusing set of attachment strategies. It can also be a lot of lying in the family, a lot of like mixed stories from different things. These things will cause trust issues. Now, one of the most important things for a relationship to survive, like when we're talking about securely attached relationships and how securely attached relationships work, one of the most important ingredients is that there has to be a foundation of trust. Without trust, the relationship will constantly go dating stage, honeymoon stage, power struggle stage, over. Without trust, it just won't make it beyond the power struggle. And then fearful avoidance concept of like what a relationship will look like is that it's like either infatuation through the dating and honeymoon stage or a power struggle. And then that's it. And then like, oh, then the relationship ends and it's painful and then we start over. And what they don't get to see on the other side of that once they become secure is that actually when we move beyond the power struggle stage, we're also moving the needle from like conditionally based love to more unconditionally based love. So we go from like infatuation based love where we're on our best behavior to learning to accept each other's differences, working beyond a power struggle and into closeness and intimacy and understanding of each other's inner patterns and wounds and fears and supporting each other through that and accepting that. And then we move into stability. And by then, we're actually moving towards more unconditionally based love. All of this to say that if you are a loved one of a fearful avoidant and you want your relationship to work, or if you are a fearful avoidant and you want your relationship to work, you have to learn how to trust. Trusting does not mean that you turn a blind eye to red flags. It means the opposite. Trusting does not mean you throw caution to the wind and you just blindly trust everybody. Trusting is built on the premise of you being able to be open and vulnerable enough to let somebody in. And when they mess up, because they will mess up, okay, this is the crux of everything. Every human being will make mistakes, right? That's not going to go away just because you found the perfect match or the perfect partner. People are going to forget things sometimes. They're going to hurt your feelings. They're going to say the wrong thing. They're going to make a mistake in some form in the relationship. But when they do, you work through it. You talk about it. The person apologizes to you. They take accountability. They're able to actually say, hey, here's what we did wrong. So there's some really important, those 5 major ingredients that we're going to talk about here. There's some really important things to pay attention to, but I just want to get you to get clear first that trust is built. It's something where we have a baseline of trust. We have a certain degree of trust that we go into relationships with, but people are going to mess up sometimes. And how trust really gets built and really develops deeper roots is that we learn to communicate about those problems and challenges, solve for them, talk about our needs for resolution, be accountable, validate each other's feelings and perspectives, be apologetic, and then we move through something. And then the person remembers for next time, hey, this is a sensitive spot for you. This is a pain point. And then we keep working beyond that. And that's how trust works. Sometimes I've seen these like historic ideas for fearful avoidance where they're like, trust nobody and don't ever trust anybody. And it's like, hey, like, if your idea of trust is that people will never make a mistake, that's actually a very unhealthy concept of what trust is supposed to look like and be. And a healthy self-concept for trust is that like, I trust that if somebody hurts me, I trust that I can reiterate my boundaries. I can let them know that they hurt me. I can tell them my needs. I can ask for resolution and apology. I can ask for them to validate my experience and like how that felt for me. And then we'll work through it. And if they don't, then they're probably not the right person to have in my life. And that's okay, because I'm going to keep backing myself and keep backing these really important things that I need. And that's going to allow me to go build trust elsewhere and have the right people in my life who I can trust and who, even if we make mistakes sometimes with each other in the relationship, we are showing up really well the vast, vast majority of the time. So the ratio of like good to bad around trust is like 95 or 97 to 3 or 5%. And so it's like, hey, there's so much trust. And then there's just room where people are forgetful or they make mistakes sometimes. And that's okay. I can accept that. So that's what we're looking for. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the 5 main things still, but I just want to be really clear about like what trust is. Because I think for fearful avoidance, even that concept can get lost. One of the first things is there needs to be a sense of vulnerability in order to trust. You have to be vulnerable. That's how the fearful avoidant will come to trust you. And the fearful avoidant has to be vulnerable in the situation as well. By the way, I have a whole course before I go for the other 4 things, all about reconditioning a broken baseline of trust. If you're coming in with a lot of baggage, a lot of pain points and wounds from past relationships, from childhood, from your upbringing, please know those are not your fault. And yet they are your responsibility. Like only you can really do that work to change them. So if you want to do a really deep dive into reconditioning your baseline of trust so you can learn how to healthily develop these things, I have a whole course you can check out for free for 7 days. It's called Overcoming Broken Trust. You can use the link down below to access it. It's about a 2-hour course. You can definitely get through it in 7 days, and it will give you everything you need to know about like literally how trust works, how it looks, how to work through broken trust, even scripts for communicating if there is an issue or there is broken trust, and how to recondition your old wounds that you might be carrying from painful past experiences so you can let trust wounds go for good. That link is down below. So these high-level concepts, though, the first one is there needs to be a certain degree of vulnerability between both parties to even establish any kind of trust at all. The second thing is when there's a mistake made. If you're the loved one of a fearful avoidant, you have to own it. When you own it, it's like accountability is the ingredient, right? But along with accountability, there has to be transparency and context for why it happened. A fearful avoidant is not good at just being like, oh, it's fine, things happen. Fearful avoidants need to, in order to move on, know why you made the mistake, what was going on from your end. They need to understand it in order to feel safe letting it go. If they don't understand, if they don't have the important information to understand like why the mistake happened, like if let's say you forgot your anniversary, okay? And sometimes fearful avoidants might go, oh my gosh, you don't care about the relationship, I don't trust you with anything, and can really shut down. But if you're like, hey, I was really going through a hard time personally, I was really struggling with something going on at work, I was in my head, I was feeling insecure, I got distracted, I really do care about you and I messed up and I'm sorry, and I see why this would be hurtful. If you're giving them transparency and context, if you're being accountable and vulnerable, and if you are validating their emotions and their experience, again, this isn't like, hey, do all the backflips and the fearful avoidant should just jump on board. You have to practice these things and also practice communicating your needs. If you're the loved one of a fearful avoidant, it's not just like a one-way street, but you also have to do the reconditioning of your core wounds, which is covered in that course, so that you can have that healthy baseline of trust going into things as well. But these are the things you'll need to work through broken trust so you can communicate and keep evolving. And if you're the loved one of an FA, these are really important ingredients to know because it will help you towards a much faster resolution in arguments or challenges. And then last but not least, consideration and congruency, where I'm kind of pairing them together, and consistency even. Like all of these things allow somebody to trust you. It's like the 3 C's of trust are consistency, congruency, consideration. Honestly, even context, if we had like a fourth one, but I mentioned that one earlier. But if you are considerate of somebody and how you're affecting them, it's like, oh, I trust that you're going to take me and my needs and how I feel into consideration. If you're consistent, it's like, okay, you're stable, I can trust you, I can rely on you, right? So if you're consistent, considerate, and if you're congruent, if what you say and how you act show up, right? Line up, if they align. And as long as those things are there, all of those ingredients together, the 4 main ones we talked about, and those 3 kind of ones piled into one category at the end, this is how you're going to be able to build a foundation of trust, even with a fearful avoidant. Although the fearful avoidant should still be doing that trust work, these are such important ingredients for that strong foundation. So I hope this makes sense. I hope this really clarifies like what trust is, how it can be worked through. I feel like sometimes fearful avoidants have this like shattered internal trust baseline, and like just seeing that there's another way can be so valuable. So if you have more questions for me about trust, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. It's such a powerful thing to overcome, and it just changes the way that you feel about relationships so dramatically in such a nice way. Really, really important stuff to pay attention to. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you are enjoying this content in this channel, I put daily YouTube content out here literally every single day about attachment styles, the subconscious mind, integrated attachment theory, relationships, and really just healing in general. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss any, and I will see you in future videos.